220 jobs. The news follows radical changes at the university, which have seen students across all courses having to take general degrees before they can do postgraduate studies under the Melbourne model. Cheryl Hall reports.
When you talk to students, they're not proud to be part of what's happening at Melbourne University. When you talk to young students coming out of school, the choice is now very much whether you go to Melbourne or whether you go to Monash or La Trobe. And Monash and La Trobe have really functional, high-quality arts departments at the minute, whereas the university here is making it so hard for the arts faculty to do its job.
Matthew Champion began his studies in history at Melbourne University in 2002, well before the Melbourne model was introduced. He and many of his fellow students are devastated by the changes that have taken place in the last year and a half.
A whittling away of standards and a whittling away of the breadth of subjects which are offered. Now, I don't want to blame staff here because the staff in this school are brilliant, absolutely brilliant staff members, but they're struggling with these increased workloads, these massive subjects that they're having to teach.
I think that both the staff and the students are being starved of learning. I think the arts is now no longer a career. It's no longer seen as something you can do for life. It's seen as a stepping stone that you just have to tick off before you move on to your vocational training. I don't know anyone who would come here to do humanities as their direction in life.
The arts faculty at Melbourne University has been savaged by staff cuts. Charles Sauerwein worked there for 35 years and left after overseeing huge cuts to subjects and teaching staff.
We were told that we could not have so many offerings, so we cut well more than half, including many popular and big subjects, as well as a lot of small subjects. And that means, of course, that we simply have fewer subjects to offer students. At the same time, a number of staff departed, either with packages or going elsewhere or taking long-term leave. And we went from 23 to 15 staff.
His comments this week have not been welcomed by the university.
Well, I've had some unpleasant emails. I regret that people see it in this light. We all believed at the start that the Melbourne model would be a great chance for us to offer our very rich and deep subject offerings and our terrific honours and postgraduate work to more people.
Other schools, like philosophy, have also suffered from a spate of redundancies and a change to the federal government's funding formula that favours social sciences over humanities. It means the highly regarded School of Philosophy has been reduced to 4.5 staff.
I think Melbourne's reputation already is suffering internationally. We can see that in the rankings of the philosophy department, which has certainly slid, quite understandably given the loss of academic staff. I support the idea of the Melbourne model that everyone, whether they're doing law or medicine or business, should get a basic liberal arts and sciences education. But if you're going to do that, you've got to fund it properly.
Job cuts, no way.
That's unlikely. This week, the university announced a $30 million budget shortfall caused by the loss of returns on investments. The Vice-Chancellor met university staff this week in Melbourne and then spent the rest of the week in a budget meeting with senior staff.
On the salary side, we think we'll have to lose about 220 positions out of a workforce of 7,500, so I emphasise it's a small number. And we think we can do that through natural attrition and a small program of voluntary redundancies.
Professor Davis has targeted several areas, including the Victorian College of the Arts, taken over by Melbourne University 2 years ago, and already the subject of cost cutting.
Everyone's really distressed. We had the first cuts from Melbourne happened here. We lost 12 staff a couple of months ago with 1 week's notice. And we've been told that we have to cut $11 million from the budget.
So what's the next cut?
If Melbourne Uni changes their funding model here and makes major cuts so we can't deliver practical training, then the state loses their arts training. And we know that the practitioners and the talented students will go elsewhere to train, as in interstate or overseas.
But the university blames increasing costs.
Let me emphasise the funding rate for the VCA has not changed. There's been no cut to the overall funding rate. But the VCA faces, as does every other faculty, as does every other university, simply the issue that costs are going up faster than income's coming in.
You can't slash another 220 jobs without doing serious damage to the core departments of the university. So if that isn't turned around, we're going to become a country with a second-rate educational system.
Professor Davis says the arts remain at the core of the university and still offer more than 1,000 subjects to 4,000 students. He blames government funding for the problems.
I think there's a strong case to say we need to look again at the funding rates for arts nationally, that it's very hard to support quality arts programs on the sorts of funding that's now available. It's no small thing for a university to decide to move from one form of education to another. Without doubt, some things will need to be changed. That's life.
Matthew Champion is now working on his Masters on medieval history, and despite assurances, he's concerned the university is no longer serious about humanities.
My Masters is on a 15th century inquisitorial tract by a Dominican called Nicolaus Chiquerius, and he's dealing with a sect of diabolical demon-worshipping witches who are out there causing all kinds of trouble to the 15th century. It's a project which, when you look at the surface, doesn't seem relevant. What you're being trained to do is to think.
Matthew Champion, along with Kim Clayton-Green, are already planning their exodus.
I'm already applying to go overseas to England to do my PhD.
I'll be going to the UK to do my Masters and hopefully a PhD. And so will a lot of my peers from the Art History Department.
Cheryl Hall reporting. The state government announced this week who it's chosen to build and operate Australia's largest desalination plant